Hello, listeners. This is frequent guest host and editor Aaron here. Want to let you know we had a happy accident of sorts, sort of the exact opposite of what normally happens. We left the recorder running and picked up some bonus audio at the end of the episode. So stay tuned after the end theme rolls for a little extra stuff.
Welcome to Musicshemissed, the podcast where I try to get my best friend caught up in some of the most popular songs and artists that impact our lives. I'm Allison.
Hi, I'm Rachel, and I missed all the music.
Rachel, we are in the midst of season 3.
We are.
And for my tangentially related question today, I would like to ask you about your experiences with the law. Have you ever been arrested? What kind of tickets have you received?
So I'm a rule follower, very much so.
Yeah.
I remember getting my recess taken away once in elementary school.
Yes. I think this is one of the reasons why we're friends.
Yeah.
Because we both
we're
like, I'm trying so hard not to get in trouble. And yet.
So I grew up in Europe. And specifically in a country that didn't have speed limits.
Right.
And so I like to drive fast. And I'm not the best driver.
I will wholeheartedly concur with that statement.
I love you too, Allison. But you did.
You are a scary driver.
But you told me recently you've seen your life flash before your eyes less lately.
That is true.
So I remember, I'm holding on to those words because I'm very proud because I've worked on it.
You have. But please share with the audience your law-breaking experiences.
I think it's 1, 2, 3 speeding tickets in 1 week.
Gosh, this is the worst.
But at least they were in 2 different counties. And so I could defer one, defer the second, and then just pay the third. So none of the points went on to my record. But still. It's not good. My husband was very upset. He was like, Rachel, you are a full-grown woman. Do I need to take away your keys? Can you have self-control? And I was like, I will get better. I will get better. Yeah. I have. And then I got my 3rd ticket, and then he got really mad.
Oh, that was...
And then he's like, okay, Rachel, come on. So, yeah. Anyways, so law-abiding, what's going on with this?
Well... Actually, before we do the big reveal and I tell you how that's related, this week's artist is actually 2 artists in one go.
Really?
Yeah, so I actually have another question to ask you before we get to the big reveal.
What's the other question?
What is your favorite fictional sword?
Sword? Like cutting sword? What in the world, Allison? What are you talking about?
Mine's Sting.
Are we listening to the police and Sting?
Hey! We didn't have to do the big reveal!
Sorry for those who just heard me scream, but I was very excited.
Well, for the sake of tradition, can we do a quick drum roll?
Yes.
All right, here we go. It's Police and Sting.
Yay! I remember learning about Sting being part of the police band, I think. Was it 2 years ago?
Well, it was right before we started this podcast.
Yeah, and it was with my father-in-law, and he was like, he gave a double take and like totally shifted his head. He's like, Rachel, you didn't know that? I was like, no.
You actually even texted me and you were like, Allison, who are the police? Do I know any of their songs? Is Sting a member of the police? Like, you were asking me, and that was one of the things that made me think, I should make all of these weird text messages into a show. So...
Did you save them?
Yes.
That's funny.
I will be sure to post the screenshots of some of these conversations.
Oh, lovely. I'm so glad.
So, but you do know that these are musicians.
Yes, I know Sting is a guy, and he lives in New York City, and Phoebe Buffay from the show Friends tried to get Ross and Rachel's child into the same school with him.
At the same school as Sting's child?
Yes. And then Phoebe Buffay got a restraining order.
Got it. Okay.
From Sting.
From the police.
Yeah. Dun,
Okay.
dun, dun.
So, apart from that Friends episode,
That's not reality.
that is not real. What do you actually know about the police and Sting?
So I know the police a little bit. I think I know Sting a little bit more. So I have an ex-boyfriend who was really good at piano, and he was like a concert pianist, and he had an amazing voice. And he made a mixed CD
For you.
for me, and one of the songs was a Sting song.
Which one?
I don't know the title of it, but I know how it goes.
Go ahead.
Every move you make.
Oh, every step you take.
Yeah.
I'll be watching
every
you.
step you take.
Okay, so that's a little creepy.
Well,
Not gonna lie.
I
That
thought
song's a little
I thought
creepy.
the song was more of like not really a stalker song, but it was just like, hey, I love you, and I
Every
want.
move you make, I'll be watching you.
Okay, it is a stalker song, but I thought it was just more of like, hey,
I don't pay
I
attention
want to walk
lyrics.
along life with you. I want to be part of your world.
There's a
Part
reason this
of
guy's your ex.
world.
There's a reason this guy's your ex. I mean,
Yeah, he is an ex.
this sounds creepy.
Yeah, he even contacted me after we got married, and I was like, nope, boop.
Okay. Yeah, sounds like he
He
was.
even wanted to stalk me after. I
Yeah,
got
he's
married.
like, every move you make on Facebook, I am watching you. All right, so you do know one song.
I
And
think that's the only song. But
yeah.
so Sting does have a good voice because the ex-boyfriend was able to sing
Yeah.
really well.
So just so you know, that song is by the Police.
Oh, not by Sting,
I mean, he's
But-
in the Police, but
but he's the main singer.
yeah. So it's him singing.
Okay.
It's the Police song.
Okay.
Any other songs that you know?
That's it.
All right, well, I'll just throw a couple more titles out there that might ring a bell for you.
Okay.
In terms of Sting, If I Ever Lose My Faith in You,
Pass.
Desert Rose.
Oh, was that in a commercial for like a car selling commercial? Maybe.
Perhaps.
I don't know. Pass.
I'll take that as a pass. All right. Some of the Police songs that you might know. Don't Stand So Close to Me.
That's them.
Yeah. How do you know that song?
Don't stand so
Yeah.
close to me.
Yeah.
Or yeah, me. Yeah, there.
How do you know that song?
I feel like I was on a movie.
Okay.
So yeah, it's not like I'm sitting there and listening to the Police. No.
Right. No, I knew that.
I think it was from a movie.
What about Roxanne?
Roxanne.
Yeah.
Is that them?
Yes.
I never knew
How do you know
that.
that song? Probably because it's in a movie.
No. Again, Friends. Ross says, Ross can.
Oh, okay. All right, one more.
I'm watching reruns on Netflix right now. Friends,
Clearly.
Can you tell?
All right, last one. Every little thing she does is magic.
Every little thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not one Buffy Slayer lady.
Oh, Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Yeah, there's
Uh-huh.
this one movie that she does, but she's like working in Macy's or working in some department store, and I have
Okay.
that song.
All right, so on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being you've never heard of them before, and 10 being they're your favorite, where would you place your current knowledge of the Police and Sting?
I'm really glad I'm going to learn about him this week because I think it'll help. I would say maybe a 4,
I think
maybe a
that's
3.
no 4 probably, because you recognize some of those songs. That's pretty good. I mean, you didn't know it was them, but
Yeah.
the fact that you have heard it before in our show
Yeah, that
is a
big
good
deal.
sign. That's a big deal.
Yeah. So maybe it's going to be more like the Michael Jackson stuff that I kind of knew, but I never knew was him.
Yeah, maybe. So you've got some homework.
Yes, I do.
We've got a little Police and Sting playlist for you, around an hour, 16 songs.
Okay, I
Listen-
can do that.
Listen to it every day.
Yes, I
No
can.
cheating.
No cheating.
And when you come back together, we'll talk about it, but we won't be alone.
Really?
Every move we make. I'm just kidding.
Is my ex-boyfriend going to come because he's stalking us and listening to us right now?
I don't think so. It's going to be, but we are going to have a guest host.
Okay.
And it is our friend Jenny.
Really? She's into Police and Sting.
What's really interesting about it is that I have known her since we were 13 years old. And I didn't know how into Sting she was until a couple weeks ago when I was talking about this show with her, and she was like, I love Sting.
That's so cool. I love Jenny. She's a sweetheart.
And she's going to share with you.
Good. And
This
she's not on
playlist.
my stalker list, so she can be in my presence.
You don't have a restraining order
No.
out against her? All right, Rachel. Well, I hope you enjoyed this week of listening to The Police and Sting. And I'll see you and Jenny next week. And audience will be back with you in just a moment.
Sounds good. Here we go.
Welcome back. Rachel, you spent the last week listening to The Police and Sting.
Yes, I have.
Did you have a good week listening to it?
Actually, I did, because I had a lot of fun in some ways. I kind of learned about myself in some ways, too.
Well, I look forward to hearing more about your impressions, but first we need to introduce our guest host, our friend Jenny. Hey, Jenny. Welcome.
Hi, everybody.
Thanks so much for being here. I'm so glad you're able to hang out with us and teach me.
Yeah, happy to be here.
And Jenny, I'd like us to start about how you ended up being the guest host for this episode, because you are also one of my best friends, and I've actually known you a good...
You've
I don't
known
know.
her. Yeah, you guys known each other longer than I've known you, Allison.
Yeah, like, we've known each other since 1990.
Yeah.
We're going to not show our ages
A
here.
long time.
Since we were 13.
Yeah.
Wow.
We were
So
kids.
21 years.
But here's what's crazy. Yeah, so I've known her for, a couple decades now. And I found out, Jenny, that you were a Sting fan like a few weeks before this
Yeah.
episode. Because
Really?
we were
You
talking.
guys known each other that long.
Well, that's what's so crazy. So we were talking about the show, and I was showing her some of the artists that I'd planned for the future, and I got to The Police and Sting, and you go, oh, I love Sting.
I
And
do love Sting.
I was like, what?
I'm a closeted Sting lover.
And so, because I know you love music and we've known each other for a long time, and because I now know that you really love Sting, I thought you'd be a perfect guest host for this episode.
Yes.
And I was wondering if you could share with Rachel how you got into Sting in the first place.
Yeah. So, I really don't talk about the fact that I grew up loving Sting because,
Why? Is loving Sting bad?
No.
you know,
Okay, I don't know.
no, it's not.
Okay.
But as a young kid, like when I, met Allison and a lot of my other friends later, I mean, a lot of them were into music. So I didn't feel like Sting was in the category of what they thought was cool, and it was something my parents introduced me to.
Right.
So
Isn't your dad a pastor?
yeah.
Okay.
It went immediately into like the things you don't talk about category. When I was growing up, I didn't have a lot of music that I listened to. My
See,
parents
neither did I.
my parents didn't expose me to a lot beyond, other than Christian music, a lot of
See,
oldies.
same with me.
Yeah. But I had a lot of oldies. I had tons of Beatles and the
Okay,
Monkees.
No.
Jenny
And-
recovered
And
from-
the Beach
I have
Boys.
not.
And,
Well, I'm
yeah.
recovering now.
I mean, my parents listened to Cat Stevens and like all their favorites from when they were younger, but I didn't really have a lot of new music. So when my parents started listening to Sting, I credit a lady from our church who was very close to our family, who was also my art teacher in elementary
That's
school.
cute.
She babysat me. She was obsessed with Sting in the way that Allison is obsessed with Paul McCartney.
That's a serious level of obsession.
She
I know. We've
was
passwords about Paul.
obsessed. And I looked up to her, and at the time, what my parents listened to was cool. And if it wasn't Christian music, I was ready to be into it. So I started listening to Sting, and I was 10 or 11 when 10 Sumner's Tales came out, and I fell in love with like most of the songs on that CD, particularly Fields of Gold, which
Is on your playlist.
is on your playlist, yes. It was like the definition of romance in my little kid mind. The lines in that song just made me feel so like romantical.
Romantical.
Yes. So as a kid, I lived in my head a lot. I was kind of like Anne of Green Gables if she never said anything. You know, like I had
Love Anne of Green
I had like an
Gables.
inner monologue going all the time. I was super dreamy and emotional, and that song in particular, and a lot of songs on that album really like fed that part of me, even though like I didn't know what romance was as a kid. But Fields of Gold is about a man sweeping a woman into his arms and kissing her, and I thought that was just like the definition of everything I wanted in my entire life when I was 11. So
And everyone knows what you should want and desire at the age of 11.
yes, and it should be to be in a field of barley and to have a man put his arms around you and kiss you.
That's so cute.
So
I think if I had heard that song when I was 11, I probably would have felt the same way about it.
But then there were a lot of other great songs that, you know, as a little kid, I just like listened to in the car, danced around to the house to. Like it was one of those things my parents could throw on the stereo at home and we would all enjoy it together.
Yeah.
So, you know, it has like a lot of nostalgia for me.
Yeah.
Like I still don't listen to lots and lots of Sting anymore, but whenever I hear, you know, Fields of Gold or even Brand New Day or, you know, one of the many other Sting songs, I get nostalgic. I do
Now,
not
do you get
listen.
nostalgic about the Police songs?
No, I did not listen to the Police. And honestly, like, I can hear a Police song and I think it's a Sting song because his voice is so distinctive to me. But I did not realize that they were two different things growing up. It wasn't until much, much later in my life that I realized, like, oh, yeah, Sting was in the Police long before he was Sting.
See, I learned that from Allison. That
Yeah.
Like a week ago.
yeah.
Well, I learned about the Police much later, like a decade ago, but it's still, like, in my brain, I still have to think for a minute, like, was Roxanne the Police or Sting? Because his voice is so distinctive to me.
So this is a really good time to transition into a little bit more about like their history, because we want to talk about Sting like as a person, how he grew up. We want to talk about the formation of the Police. We want to go into a little timeline here.
Do you mind if I ask one question before we do that?
I'm hoping that you will.
Okay. So, you know how you learned this, not Sting, the Sting. It's Sting and the Police separately.
Yes.
And how I'm learning Sting and the Police more together. Now, for me, when I listen to the playlist Allison has created, I can't tell when it's Sting or the Police, Sting and the Police. Is that okay as I'm learning them?
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
definitely.
Okay.
Totally fine.
I just didn't know if that was bad.
If you listen for a long enough time, you can kind of tell the musical differences between the
I
two.
can't do
You
that
will
yet.
be able to over time, because the Police kind of like are in one time period.
Yeah.
And they do have a distinctive sound that's really makes sense in that decade.
Huh.
And then Sting's music afterwards, he doesn't really do, especially in the last 10 years, he hasn't really done like rock at all.
No.
So if it sounds kind of rockish, it's probably the Police. That would be a good guess anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, for me, I can know it's this week is Sting and the Police, but it's like I know the titles of the songs, and now I'm thinking of, now I've created my least favorite or favorite list, and I'm like, which ones are the Sting and which ones are the Police?
Don't worry
about that.
Okay, good. I'm glad not to worry about that. Good.
So let's talk about Sting. That question that you just asked was actually not the question I thought you were going to ask.
Really?
I thought you were going to ask about his name.
Oh, yes. I definitely want to know about his name. Is that his legal name? Did his mom call
No.
him Sting?
Well, his mom
Hello, Sting.
His
You're
mom-
my baby.
his mom does call him Sting. His kids call him Sting.
Everybody
Like,
does.
But
all
it's a
of-
nickname?
It's a nickname given to him
By himself?
No.
It's
No.
actually when I read this story, I thought that is hilarious. So he actually, when he was performing, in jazz clubs,
Yes.
Jenny?
Yes.
He was wearing like a sweater with black and yellow stripes, and he looked like a bee
bumblebee?
or a wasp, and so
That's
Yeah.
how he...
isn't that crazy?
Yeah, there's a
So
guy.
he's like probably wearing a rugby shirt almost.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, I had a professor who actually wore like the same kind of sweater. So they exist out there. But yeah, a guy from the Phoenix Jazz Band that he used to play with gave him the nickname, said he looked like Wasp. And so the nickname Sting was born, and now everybody calls him that, including his own mother. So not the legal name. His real name
What is his legal name?
Gordon.
Gordon
Yeah, I would
Matthew.
rather be called Sting instead of Gordon.
Well,
Nothing against the name Gordon, but
His
Gordon.
name's quite a mouthful. It's Gordon Matthew Thomas Sumner.
Yes.
So,
That's a nice roll from the tongue.
yeah, so like Jenny was saying, he started out playing jazz and did that for a while.
Yeah, he actually was a teacher by day and played in jazz clubs at night.
Teacher. What kind of teacher?
Honestly,
Secondary
I
school.
don't know. Yeah, just general secondary
So
school.
some kind of middle school? Well,
Middle school or high school. Yeah.
so let me note this. Hot for teacher. Oh my goodness. He is a good looking man. Like,
Well-
he honestly looks a little bit like my oldest brother Joe, but more like my husband Paul.
Well, that's probably good that you don't think of your brother.
Oh gosh, that's gross. Ew. But
No,
yes,
he
I
is-
think
he's a good-looking
He is
guy.
a good looking guy. He's not
Well,
bad
he's
looking.
he's part of the reason why, like, his face was part of the reason why the police were successul. Because I mean, if you look at the other two,
Well, are the other two
Stuart
kind
and Andy are not the
of attractive?
They're not the most. They're very British, I guess.
Wait a second. So, is this
they're
a
all-
British brand?
It is.
Yes.
Oh, I thought they were American.
He is British, but they kind of got their big break in America because they made the mistake of going under the umbrella of punk music when they were not
That's not punk.
punk, and the London critics saw through it, and punk was, I mean, it was big, and punk has no room for people who are pretending. So after they had a little success with Roxanne, but after they recorded their first album together, they couldn't get any success in Britain. So they ended up going over to America and found success here first.
So, yeah, so the police actually formed in 1977, and they were together until 1986. And
77. Wow.
yeah. So, Sting himself is in his 60s, mid-60s. So, like Jenny said, they're not punk, more
No.
new wave, but you might have noticed some other inspiration in their music.
Like you mentioned jazz a couple minutes ago, and then
Yes.
the piano in one of their songs. I really liked it a lot.
Okay.
And so I could
Of the
hear
Police.
some of like, oh, that was the Police.
No, I don't think that's that
La
song's-
Belle?
Yeah, that's not a police song. So we're just talking about the police right now.
Okay.
You might have noticed a kind of Caribbean feel, a little like
Now that you're mentioning it,
like
yeah, I
in
do.
Roxanne or in Message in a Bottle.
Yes.
Those songs kind of have maybe some like
Did they move to the Caribbean?
no, but they drew a lot of inspiration from reggae music. But the Police, they had five albums.
Okay.
And that's it. And they just got like bigger and bigger
So
hits.
I'm gonna ask a really dumb question.
No such thing.
Yeah, you think. So, Sting was first, or the Police were first?
So-
Which the egg and the chicken? What's
The
going
police were first.
on? The Police was first.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So the Police was created in '77, and then Sting afterwards went off by himself.
Yes.
Right.
But when the Police were kind of together, they had. Okay.
They
Cool.
had the hits like Every Breath You Take, Roxanne, Don't Stand So Close to Me, Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic,
So I have
King of Pain.
another question.
Okay.
Sting was always the singer of the Police, or did the other guys sing too?
He was always a singer
And the
Okay.
bassist.
and always the bassist.
And who wrote the musics?
Sting.
Really?
Yep.
So those other guys, they really didn't do anything.
Well,
I mean, they did
you
stuff.
had a great drummer and a great guitarist.
And they went on to do other things.
They did,
Really?
and all of them were actually pulling from different musical abilities. So, like, Sting's background was really different than the other two members of the Police.
Uh-huh.
So, they all brought something different to the band, which is why, I mean, it's new wave, but it's influenced by jazz and reggae and all these other things.
So Sting was a former teacher. Were the other guys, former teachers?
No.
They just kind of met and hung out?
He met Stuart Copeland while playing in a band, and Copeland didn't think anything of the band or its music, but he thought something of Sting, and so they ended up like exchanging numbers, and eventually Sting quit his job and moved to London
Wow.
with Stuart Copeland's number in his pocket and no money just on the hopes that they would start a band together, because Copeland, he was older than Sting, and he had a background, I think, in progressive rock, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But anyway, he had a background in music, and he had played with some...
And Copeland was the drummer? No, he was the bassist.
Sting was the bassist. Copeland was the drummer, and Andy Summers was the guitarist, I think. So he went out to London kind of on a wing and a prayer and met up with Copeland, and they searched for another member for their band. And
wow.
Yeah, and
so when they created themselves as a band and when they got signed into a recording studio, how long did that take? Just a few years, I guess?
well, I mean, they already had kind of had, once they had Roxanne out there, I think it was fairly easy for them. The brother of one of the other two members of the Police decided to be their manager, and
is that a good thing?
it was good for them.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
so.
They were very successful.
Yeah, they were.
Something I noticed in reading some interviews of Sting, and sorry in advance, Jenny, but he does seem to have a little bit of an arrogant streak,
Ew.
or at least he is perceived that way.
Okay.
But maybe a little bit of control, like what Jenny was saying. He writes the songs. He's the lead guy of the band.
I would agree 100% with that.
I don't want to diss your guy.
Just because I love Sting doesn't mean he can't be an arrogant dude.
So my next question is, so if the Police was first, Sting was next,
Yeah,
and he may have a little taste of arrogant issues.
right.
So did they break up, or did they just say, you know what, we're going to take a break, let's do our individual thing? What happened to them?
Well, honestly, I think for the most part it boiled down to Sting's maybe arrogance, but also the fact that he wanted a lot of creative control. And he was kind of a perfectionist in his songwriting and music writing. So when the other guys were like contributing, they did write and they did compose, like that's what they did. But Sting was very harsh. He was a harsh critic to their own work, and perfection was what he wanted. And I think that took a toll on the band.
I bet it did. So that means the other guys weren't as popular as Sting then.
No, I mean they still had music careers, but
Okay.
not to the degree of fame that Sting has had. And so just to move it forward, Sting has 12 solo albums,
Wow.
and together, with the Police, they've won a total of 16 Grammys.
Wow.
So
in the
he
Rock and
sold
Roll Hall
100
of Fame.
million records.
Yeah.
Between him and the Police.
So this is going to sound really dumb, because
again.
it's especially since it's now season 3. So Grammys,
Yeah.
are those worldwide awards or are those just American awards?
Good question.
They are,
I think they have world, Western.
They do have categories for world music and things like that, but I feel like it's mostly artists that sing in English,
That would make sense.
mostly American artists.
Right.
And
There is a Latin Grammy.
yeah,
and
a lot
Oh.
of Grammys that he has won, I believe, are for movies, songs he's done for movies. And
What movies? That Michelle Gellar one?
what Michelle Gellar
It's
won.
she's some clerk in some store like Macy's. I don't
Well,
know.
that
I'll have
one's
to
not
figure it
ringing a bell. But he did Emperor's New Groove, and
He did? That's him?
yeah.
I love that show from when I was a kid.
White Squall is one of my favorite movies, and he did a song for that one. Gosh, I'm sure there's 1,000
Really?
that he's
I love
done
movies.
stuff for. But he's also won Grammys, just obviously through his own excellent songwriting,
his great
and
looks.
in the Police too, and his good looks probably helped too.
So to bring it full circle, the Police did eventually have a brief reunion about 10 years ago, 2007. They did a massive tour, went all over the world, and people, really wanted them to record new stuff, but I think Sting was kind of no, we've brought it full circle. That's the end.
Yeah.
So I think they're on good terms-ish. enough.
From what I've read, it was like a civil breakup. Like maybe everybody wasn't super happy about it, but nobody was horribly angry about it. I mean, they're still speaking to each other. And even...
They send Christmas cards.
Yeah, well, even after the police broke up, I'm pretty sure that at least one of them contributed to some of Sting's albums.
Yeah, I read that same thing as well. So a few collaborations.
Yeah. I think honestly, I think maybe Sting was just outgrowing the police and wanted more creative control.
And that's something that you can see when you look at the playlist and you're in the Sting half of it. The songs definitely move, I think, away from standard pop. So you have songs, and they include a lot more of that kind of world influence. You know, you have Desert Rose, which is the one with the like Arabic in the background, the like North African sound. You've got La Belle Dame Sans Regret, which is in French, right? So bringing in kind of more, and you even have that one weird one, the one with the lute. Fine Necks for Ladies.
Oh, yes, yes.
From Songs, what is that called?
Songs from the Labyrinth.
Songs from the Labyrinth, which
So,
sounds like medieval.
I'm curious. Did you create the playlist or did Allison?
We did it together.
You guys did it together. You collaborated.
Yes. She had built the original playlist, and I added some things to it.
Right. Mine was mostly the police, which is what I'm into. And then Jenny was like,
where are the Sting songs?
I did not know about Songs from the Labyrinth, so that was a fun surprise
that one
for
was
me.
just sort of like, so you could see how kind of crazy and weird he is about like exploring music. Nothing is off the table. He will attack 1600s folk songs. He said it was like the pop of the day, and he wanted to do it justice. So again, like he will try anything. And
that was one of the things that I noticed as I was creating my favorites and least favorite lists,
which we should definitely talk about now.
Yeah. So the least favorite one was Brand New Day.
Okay.
Like the first 50 seconds, it kind of sounds like an Alien song. Like, yeah, he does kind of experiment, and he's like, nothing's off the table. And then
a little weird harmonica.
Yeah, exactly. And there's this, but it's kind of interesting as I was listening to this song throughout the week, and it was by Wednesday or Thursday, it was kind of to grow on me where I was taking that off that least list. And I wouldn't say favorite, but I was just allowing myself to kind of get into the groove of it, where I was looking into the lyrics, looking into more of the beat. And I really like, one of the pieces of the lyrics of just turn the clock of time, and just the brand new day and the fact of that. And it was interesting how he's so adventurous. Yeah. And sometimes you can be turned off by it, but then really, wait a second, there's musical, artistic ways that he's really drawn me out and challenged me.
I'm glad that song grew on you, because it is a song of optimism, which to me is very much her personality. But Jenny has a fun fact about that song too.
So the person playing the harmonica in that song is none other than Stevie Wonder.
I love Stevie Wonder, and I know who that is. I'm so excited.
Maybe you'll like the song a little more.
I think I will.
The quote alien music part of the song is Stevie Wonder.
I think it's funny that you think a harmonica sounds like Alien.
Well, the first 50 seconds, I just thought, what is my first takeaway? Alien music.
Yeah.
So let me tell you a couple other faves.
Okay.
The La Belle one, the French. The piano. Oh my goodness. It made me want to go find the PDF version of the piano music. I just wanted to grab my piano. Well, not grab it, because it's a micro baby grand, so it's still a big piano. But anyways, I wanted to grab that and wanted to play piano on that one. I thought there was just a lot of great songs, like Everything She Does Is Magic. I thought that was such a fun music song, and it was really funny. So I have a little girl, and she just has this wide imagination. And so we were listening to this song, we were playing this week together, and she was wanting to learn for the first time a magic trick. And so it was, very simple of how to pull a coin out of someone's ear. I was like, okay, you got to be very, sly and be very quick, but also you have to be very fun and animated at the same time. So you have to do all those things all at the same time. And so it was just a fun song to teach my little girl, and it was just fun memories this week. And then Roxanne, I'm not a fan of the lyrics, so I kind of want to talk a little bit about that.
So Roxanne is probably like one of my favorite
Really?
songs on this
No,
list.
I won't lie to you. It is on my favorite list,
Okay,
but I'm not a fan of the lyrics,
that's very interesting.
which is so weird. I like the song. I think the beat, the not the background music, but I guess the background part of it.
the harmonies, the
Yeah.
guitar kind of like.
It's
Yeah, the rock
yeah.
part
Got
to
a
it.
drive to the song.
Yeah, it
moves.
makes me want to be in the car. But then now that I'm knowing what the lyrics are about
So what is the song about
Yeah.
to you?
it's about some of those girls that stand on the corner.
Yep.
So yeah, I was just like, yeah, huh.
But he's saying you
But I
don't
still-
have to put on that dress.
Yeah, I know. I still like the song though.
Yeah, I like that. I like that song. I like the cover of it in Moulin Rouge. I like the Flight of the Conchords parody of it.
It's a great
I pretty
song.
much like everything about that song.
Another couple of songs that I liked was "Don't Stand."
So Close to Me.
Yes.
Let's talk about that song, 'cause that's another lyrically interesting song.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if you caught that one.
Well, the part that it was funny is that I listened to it out of, I put it in my own order, I guess, in the sense, is the Stalker song, and then I put it right next to the Don't Stand Close to Me, where he wants, like, every move you make, but don't stand so close to me. And then it was just, like, back and forth, hot and cold, and it was just interesting.
But I don't know. Do we want to discuss this song? I think we should.
I think you should, because I'm kind of curious of what you guys are talking about.
Yeah,
So
it's a little disturbing.
Really?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Don't
let's.
stand so close to me?
So I will just read. I will not read the chorus. Young teacher, the subject of schoolgirl fantasy. She wants him so badly, knows what she wants to be. Inside her there's longing. This girl's an open page. Bookmarking, she's so close now. This girl is half his age. Her friends are so jealous, you know how bad girls get. Sometimes it's not so easy to be the teacher's pet. Temptation, frustration, so bad it makes him cry. Wet bus stop, she's waiting. His car is warm and dry. Loose talk in the classroom. To hurt they try and try. Strong words in the staff room, the accusations fly. It's no use, he sees
Oh my
her.
goodness.
He starts to shake and cough, just like the old man in that book by Nabokov.
Oh my goodness.
So,
So,
it's about a schoolgirl crush on a teacher, which leads to
He was a teacher.
an affair. He claims many times over this is not autobiographical at all. He wanted to write a song about sexuality in the classroom, and for some reason, he likes the book Lolita a lot.
do you know what that's about?
No, I don't know what that book's about.
Well, in it, it's about a man who
Is
is
in love with a.
in love with an underage girl.
Hmm.
So
And it's by Nabokov.
Nabokov, yeah. So, he obviously having been a teacher, he said himself that he knows what it's like to have a 15-year-old schoolgirl fancying him, and quote, me really fancying them. So, oh, Sting.
I can say as a former teacher, that is super gross.
Yes.
I mean, you shouldn't have to say that as a teacher, but like, I do not understand anybody going, that 15-year-old.
yeah.
We'll
We'll just call him young and dumb. Ugh. But
Oh, Sting,
but
you
in
kinda lost some points
in
on that
Sting's
one.
own words, that he like suddenly this song came to him and it sort of poured out. But to him, it's not an affair. There's a rape. That's what the song is about. So it is not a nice song.
Okay, so I'm going to be taking that one off of my favorite list.
But it
And
is
now crossing
super
it out.
fun.
It is a fun song, but now that
It's
what
a
I'm
really
hearing about
fun song.
what's so fun about it, it's like, oh.
Well, that's something that's so interesting about his lyrics. He's not fluffy.
No, he's not. Like Roxanne, not a fluffy thing.
Most of this stuff
The
isn't
Stalker
fluffy.
song.
Even the ones you think are nice are like,
And how, like,
Are not.
everything she does is magic is really just, like, how she's so, not manipulative, but how she makes everything work out for her. Haven't you ever looked at the lyrics that way?
I haven't, but I feel like that
now
one
Rachel's
was.
gonna see darkness.
I know.
Oh my gosh, I like Sting, but now I'm
There's-
just like,
there's not darkness in everything. I feel like after he went solo and on his own, he could dig into more of the deeper stuff that he wanted to get into, and he's saying
but I
about,
will
like,
say this.
conflict in Ireland, and well, I mean, he sung about prostitutes in Paris and Roxanne, so I guess it didn't matter if it was the Police or Sting.
Let me say this, and I think I may be judged by the public by this, and so I might need to think about this a little bit more. But it does take a genius to really be able to take those hard topics and then be able to create this music that people do like listening in their cars, that do like listening to at parties, and then be able to take those topics and then like, hey, I'm going to bring them out, and then you're going to be entertained by it as well.
It's really a creative.
It is creative.
A creative gift to be
It
able
is.
to take things like that and do them in a way that's skillful, where on first listen you're like, this is such a great song.
Yeah.
And it takes you a while to figure it out. But what Jenny mentioned, about stuff about Ireland, he does also have a big history of, human rights involvement and a lot of philanthropic work. He started like a foundation to save the rainforest and the indigenous people that live there. The Rainforest Foundation.
I don't know what it's called.
Something
He's
like that.
given money to AIDS research.
Has he
and-
given money to like bumblebees and wasps?
Yes.
Yes.
Actually. Yes.
Well, I was just wondering with his nickname and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, bees are in trouble.
They are now.
So
And they are necessary to the planet, so.
They are.
And he's a bit crunchy hippie, so.
Ah, okay.
So, Rachel, is there one more song you'd like to talk about before we move on to the rating?
So, you know how I mentioned earlier that I'm kind of like I learned about myself this week and stuff like that.
Yes, let's
So,
answer that.
my little girl, she's about to turn 6. She has started school. And not saying that I want to stalk her, but I'm wanting to kind of keep a better eye on her in some way. So I was kind of, after hearing the song, the stalker song, which is what I call
Every
it.
breath you take.
I know, but I call it the stalker song.
For our audience's
Yes.
sake, we should refer
Right.
to songs with their correct
Yes.
titles.
Every breath you take. I was just like listening to it as I was like looking at her, and just part of me not wanting her to grow up, part of me just excited for her at the same time that she's experiencing these new things, but also just kind of wanting to keep an eye on her and very close eye.
Jenny has some good information about this song for you.
Yeah, so this one, even though there are scores of people who think it's really romantic for some reason, it is not. It is definitely about obsession with a lost lover and about jealousy. So Sting and his first wife, Frances, were married back when Sting was in the Police. And actually, another part of the reason the Police all broke up is because they were such a big hit that all of their marriages dissolved, all of them. So
Oh, that's sad.
It is.
Sting was separated with his first wife, Frances, while at the same time he was starting a relationship with his next door neighbor and his wife's best friend.
Wait. So he lost his marriage, and then he got with his best friend and the wife?
No, his wife's best friend.
Oh,
who
okay.
also was their neighbor.
Who also was their neighbor.
Okay.
And it's possible that they had already been having an affair, that they were just starting the relationship now, like moving it forward. I'm not really sure. A lot of it's like just general hearsay from the 80s. But regardless, he got some really interesting press. So he goes to the Caribbean to escape. They had a recording studio out there. And this song is what came out while he was there, dealing with sort of the fallout of his marriage. It's a little weird, but I feel like it is a little weird.
But
It's more
think
than a little
about-
weird. But he's obsessed with
Her.
losing his wife.
Oh,
And
so this
yeah.
is about the wife, not losing the neighbor.
Like when you have an ex and you're like,
Yeah.
what are they doing?
Yeah, I
and
know.
Yeah. Even though you don't necessarily want to go back to them, you're still
Yeah.
obsessed with like how you felt about them before, maybe.
it's like the 80s version of like Facebook stalking.
Yeah. So this is Sting working through his what will eventually be his divorce from his first wife.
He does have a happy ending though, because he married that lady and he's still married to her and they have 4 kids.
Trudy,
Nice.
yep, they are still together.
So I guess it worked out.
It did work out. I think a lot of it was just the lifestyle of the late 70s and early 80s. Like, before the AIDS epidemic, rock stars did a lot of interesting stuff with a lot of people, because they didn't have any reason to be very fearful of anything.
Yeah.
So my guess is that they slept with a lot of groupies, which is what broke apart all of their marriages. So,
Gotcha.
not a really great, not a great song. Not a song to play at your wedding.
Do people play that on their wedding?
Yes, there are so many people who play it at their wedding. Sting says he gets like letters from fans and comments from people. Just stop, world. Don't play the stalker song at your
Then
wedding.
don't write it, Sting.
Put a little like
Disclaimer
on the bottom of the album, like, these songs are not to be used for the following.
Father-daughter dance.
Yeah, gross.
That is so gross.
All right.
Well, I actually had a lot of fun. I'm ready to rate.
Okay, so on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being garbage, 10 being great, where would you place your rating of Sting and the Police?
8.59.
Wow.
I know.
Even with all of
what
like,
we were talking about.
revelations of like terribleness.
Are you ready for this one? So this past week, I decided to work with my phone and change my ringtones and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I have added Sting, the Every Breath You Take song, to my ringtone level. And so it's been added to my phone because, you know, honestly...
It's only when I call, though, right?
Yeah,
Like,
well, it's because you leave voicemails. And so it's anytime I get a voicemail, I put it as if that song, because who leaves voicemails? Only stalkers leave voicemails. Right, Allison?
Sure.
I'm just kidding. You don't stalk me. All I'm saying.
That you know of. Or I'm really good at it. I do know where you live.
You do.
Well, Rachel, I'm really glad you had a good week. And Jenny, we appreciate your help in
Yeah,
playlist creation and your
sure.
expertise and your adoration for
Still love Sting.
Good.
Still
And I
love
hope
Sting.
you come back, and I hope Sting's not the only one that you love, so maybe you can introduce me to some more music.
Maybe
Yeah.
something else.
Yeah,
I
you
gotta
never
figure
know.
out.
I have a lot of loves. Maybe so many of them are closeted. I just need to tell them all to Allison.
That sounds good.
Well, for those who want to continue to walk with me on my journey of finding out more music, feel free to follow us on Facebook, Twitter,
Yep.
and listen to our playlist that Allison lovingly creates for me on Spotify.
You can also help us out by rating and subscribing on iTunes.
Yep.
Jenny, thanks a lot for coming. We really appreciate your expertise.
Thanks for having me, guys. I love talking about Sting.
Thanks so much for listening.
Have a great week.
Bye.
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 We're not recording now, right?
No.
Put that
I
in.
don't know, Jenny. Did you feel like you said everything you wanted to say, or I feel like we didn't hear a whole lot from Jenny.
From me? Really?
Yeah.
Like my opinion?
Yeah.
I
Like,
thought
almost
she said
wonder
a
if
lot.
you want to go back and is there any song you wanted to talk about that you didn't get to, or do you think we covered them?
Well, I mean, I talked about Fields of Gold, which really is my favorite. My other favorite song was actually not on this playlist.
Didn't make the cut.
It did not make the cut.
Why didn't you put it on there?
So
Because
I did.
there's only an hour.
But then, like, by the time I had put my favorite Sting songs, it's like an hour and a half, and Allison made me kind of down. A lot of his songs that like have good meanings
Let me go check on
are, I feel like weren't in Rachel's top 5 because I mean,
Really?
well, I mean there were he
I would
wrote,
like, yeah, we should say that for the air.
well, he's written about like various conflicts across the world, and he's written about
And those are the songs
like,
that are in the
he wrote a-
playlist.
Englishman in New York was about a famous LGBTQ activist guy, and I don't know. So
What's the one where he says the Russians love their children too? What's that one?
oh gosh,
It sounds like a Cold War song.
yeah, I'm pretty sure it was his first album. after he left the police. Like, he made a lot of songs about conflicts across the world. Like, he started singing about things that he cared about as soon as he broke up with the police on the Blue Turtles album, I think. But I can't remember. What song that is.
Well, you're not allowed to forget.
I can't believe we didn't talk about Dune.
Oh, Dune?
Dune.
Yeah.
We established that none of you have seen Dune.
None of us have. And honestly, like, I don't want to see anything Sting is in. I don't think he's
He's actually in movies?
he acted for a little while. Because he's got the face, man.
Oh, yeah. Was he good?
Oh, it's
Barely
this.
has any lines in Dune.
Yeah, like he's
He's a lot of, definitely in his height of eye candy.
yeah. Okay. So yeah, Aaron, the thing you were talking about before, that song is the Russians. There's a song about the First World War called The Children's Crusade. He wrote a song about the miners' strike in '84 called We Work the Black Seam.
And this was
It
all
was
on the
about the-
playlist?
It's about the clash between the miners and Margaret Thatcher. No, none of these were on
Oh.
you listened to, but you know, a lot of his more
It's too bad because Rachel loves historical stuff.
Yeah.
I love historical stuff because I think that's one of the reasons why I like Billy Joel.
yeah. Well, it is unfortunate. Like the songs that seem to be about things that matter to him, more like human rights-y type
Not his
stuff,
hits.
were not his hits at all. But
It's hard to balance between hints and like deep cuts that we love.
yeah.
When it
So
comes to playlist making.
and he's written music to Shakespeare and gosh, yeah.
Did you
He's
hear his TED Talk, Jenny?
no, I didn't know he even had one.
He had a TED Talk where he talked about how he completely hit writer's block at a certain point in his life. Completely stopped making music. Just couldn't come up with anything. And then decided to start inventing characters and writing in character.
Oh, you know, that makes a lot of sense, I feel. A lot of his songs seem very character-y. Like he's getting in
Especially his newer ones, I imagine.
yeah, like he just kind of seems to get into the brains of people and
I tell you what, my stomach turned when I put everything together about Don't Stand So Close to Me.
yeah,
I did not know he was a teacher.
yeah,
I did not know he was an arrogant jerk.
yeah,
But you put all that together,
yeah.
and it's like a weird fantasy for him about how he loves being admired by young
I
women.
feel like that's probably what it is. I feel like, honestly,
He's probably a different person now. He's matured. but-
well, no, I think he still comes across as arrogant
Oh,
to a lot of
boy.
people. Here's the thing, though, is that when you're really freaking good at something, this man is so good at writing lyrics. And I know you guys have talked about this before, about people are like music people or lyric people. I'm a lyrics person. 110%.
Me too. I'm finding out.
I know Allison is more of a music person.
She is.
But I think that's another reason I like Sting. He is super talented, and I feel like that
Good writer.
he knows it. You know, he's good at putting music together, and he's good at writing songs. It's the reason why the Police broke up, and
That's the only reason they had any success at the same time.
it's the only what? Oh, the only reason they had success.
They did well.
Yes, like there were times where he would make them trash things, or there was an interesting little. See, that's why I thought La Belle Dame songs was about regret. The beautiful woman with no regrets. Oh, you know what? I was reading for the wrong song. So for every little thing she does is magic. That one is a Police song. That one has a piano accompaniment to it, and that Sting actually forced the piano accompaniment. Copeland and Summer did not want it at all, but he forced it. And then he made them listen to it, and they ended up going with it because they were like, damn, it really is better that way. Like, you could tell that they were sort of like resigned to the fact that Sting is right again on yet another song from the way he pushes. And I felt like that story must have been like a picture perfect example of what it would have been like to be in the Police. Like,
Where did they get
we all wrote this song, you know, Sting wrote the lyrics, but, you know, we all wrote this song together because I'm pretty sure Summer or Copeland, one of them wrote like the guitar riff for that one. So they all write it together, and then Sting just brings in a pianist, and the other guys are like, what the heck are you doing? Like, we did not agree to this. And he's like, no, we're doing it. No, we're doing it. No, we're doing it. And then he does it, and then he makes them listen to it. He forces them to listen, and he makes them finally see that he's correct because he's the genius behind the band. And I think that is an example. Like, can you imagine every song, 5 albums worth of songs, to be with a person like that? Eventually you would want to punch him in his face because he's a giant dick, but he's good at what he does, you know? That is how I picture Sting.
I forgot to even ask, how did they got the police name? Like,
You know,
did they get arrested?
No, there's not like a big consensus about it, but like I think Copeland's dad was in the CIA, and he actually had the name picked out before he ever met Sting or anybody else. Copeland came up with the name.
But the weird thing is, the word police is an American word. It's not a British word. They're actually bobbies.
Well,
over there.
they are police. That's just their nickname, just like cops or whatever. Calling them a
The
bobby
Scotland
is-
Yard, that's what they're called.
No, Scotland Yard is a specific office.
Yeah. But there's like, if you go up to just an officer on the street, they are the police. It's written on their cars. It's written on the back of their jacket.
It's written on the TARDIS.
It's written on the TARDIS.
You're right.
And
Okay.
Doctor Who.
Okay, let's record our last.
I gotta
thing,
go.
so